The envelope sat on my kitchen counter like a loaded gun, and my wife Beth was asking me if she could sleep with her ex-boyfriend one more time. Just once, she said, to get closure. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, and tell me in the comments what city you're watching from. I stared at her across our marble countertop, the one I'd installed myself when Parish Electric hit its first $1 million year. Beth looked beautiful as always, her blonde hair catching the morning light streaming through windows I'd wired the automated blinds for. 15 years of marriage, 2 daughters, a successful business, and she wanted to screw her college boyfriend for old time's sake. Don't be insecure about it, Nick, she said, sipping her coffee like she'd just asked me to pick up milk. It's just physical. It doesn't mean anything. I set down my own cup carefully. At 39, I'd learned to control my reactions. Growing up poor in this Rust Belt town, building Parish Electric from nothing with my brother John, you learn that showing weakness gets you eaten alive. Go ahead, I said. Beth blinked. Really? Really? Have fun. She smiled, the same smile that had hooked me in high school when she was dating the quarterback, and I was the smart-ass kid who fixed everyone's electronics for lunch money. You're being very mature about this. Mature? Right. I watched her walk upstairs, probably to text her ex the good news. Through our bedroom window, I could see John's truck pulling into the driveway of our electrical contracting business next door. Parish Electric occupied a converted warehouse, with our family home sitting on the same 5-acre lot. Convenient for work. Less convenient when you wanted privacy. My phone buzzed. Text from my 15-year-old daughter, B. Dad, can you pick me up from soccer practice? Mom said she's busy tonight. Busy. I almost laughed. Another text, this one from 13-year-old Bree. Mom's acting weird. She keeps giggling at her phone. Kids notice everything. I'd taught them that. How to read electrical diagrams, how to spot problems before they became fires, how to pay attention to details. Apparently, I'd taught them too well. I walked outside to our business office, a climate-controlled space filled with filing cabinets, computers, and the organized chaos of a successful operation. Mary Kowalski, our office manager for 12 years, looked up from her desk. At 55, Mary knew everything about everyone in town, and her radar for drama was legendary. Morning, Nick. You look like someone stole your lunch money. Just tired. I poured coffee from the pot Mary kept running. John in yet? About 10 minutes ago. He's in the residential office going through those Maple Street contracts. John handled residential jobs while I managed commercial accounts. It worked, mostly. My older brother had the charm for dealing with homeowners, while I preferred the straightforward world of industrial electrical systems. Less small talk, more problem solving. I found John hunched over blueprints, his dark hair already showing gray at 32. We looked alike. Same height, same build, same Parish family jaw that made us look perpetually skeptical. The difference was John smiled more. People liked him instantly. I had to work for it. Morning, brother, he said without looking up. These Maple Street houses are going to be a gold mine. 6 custom homes, full smart home integration. Mrs. Henderson specifically requested you design the systems. Good. I studied the plans. Timeline? Start next month. Finish by Christmas if we hustle. John finally looked at me. You okay? You seem off. Everyone was asking if I was okay. Maybe I wore my thoughts on my face more than I realized. Fine. Just thinking about the Morrison warehouse project. That's not until spring. I like to plan ahead. John laughed. That's why you handle the big contracts, and I deal with rich housewives who change their minds every 5 minutes. I left him to his blueprints and returned to my own office. Through the window, I could see Beth's car pulling out of our driveway. Off to meet her ex, probably. Or maybe just running errands. Did it matter? My computer chimed with an email from our accountant. Monthly financial reports. Parish Electric was doing well, better than well. We'd grown from a 2-man operation to 12 employees, with gross revenues approaching $2 million annually. Not bad for a couple of kids from the wrong side of town. I opened the reports, scanning numbers I'd memorized. Payroll, equipment costs, outstanding invoices. Everything looked normal, except I frowned at the residential division expenses. John's spending had increased significantly over the past 6 months. New truck, upgraded tools, equipment I didn't recognize. When had he authorized a $15,000 wire pulling system? We already had 2 perfectly good ones. Mary, I called through my open door. Can you pull the residential equipment purchases for the last quarter? Sure thing. Something wrong? Just checking numbers? She brought me a stack of invoices 5 minutes later. I spread them across my desk, looking for patterns. John's signature on everything, but some of the vendors were unfamiliar. And the timing was odd. Several large purchases made on days when I'd been out of town on commercial jobs. My phone rang. Beth. "Hi, honey," she said, voice bright. "I'm having dinner with Lisa tonight." Girls' night. Don't wait up. Lisa. Beth's friend from yoga class, married to a lawyer, always complaining about her husband. Convenient cover story. "Have fun," I said. "You're being so understanding about everything. I love you." She hung up before I could respond. I stared at my phone, then at the invoices scattered across my desk. Understanding. Right. At 6 o'clock, I picked up both daughters from their respective practices. B climbed into my truck smelling like grass stains and determination, while Bree carried a stack of books that could stop bullets. "Where's Mom?" B asked, buckling her seatbelt. "Dinner with Lisa." "Lisa's in Florida," Bree said quietly. "She posted pictures from Disney World on Instagram this morning." I met her eyes in the rearview mirror. My younger daughter had inherited my attention to detail and my wife's beauty. A dangerous combination. "Maybe it's a different Lisa." "Maybe," Bree said, but her tone suggested she wasn't buying it. We drove home in relative silence, past the familiar landmarks of our small city. The old steel mill, closed for 15 years. The new shopping center built where the high school used to be. The river that had once powered factories and now mostly powered nothing. At home, I made dinner while the girls did homework. Spaghetti and meat sauce, garlic bread, salad. Normal family dinner, minus one family member. We ate at the kitchen table, talking about school, friends, weekend plans. I tried to focus on their voices, their faces, the ordinary magic of raising daughters. "Dad," B said, twirling pasta around her fork, "are you and Mom fighting?" "Why would you ask that?" "You both seem, I don't know, different. Like you're being extra nice to each other. Perceptive kid." "Adults go through phases. It's normal." "Is that why she's been sleeping in the guest room?" I stopped chewing. "When did she start doing that?" "Last week," Bree said. "She said you snore too loud, but you've always snored, and she never minded before." After dinner, I helped with homework, watched a movie with the girls, and tucked them into bed. Normal dad stuff. By 10 o'clock, the house was quiet except for the hum of appliances and the distant sound of traffic on the highway. I sat in my home office staring at a computer screen full of electrical schematics, but my mind kept wandering to Beth's request. Sleep with her ex one more time? For closure? Who asks for that? Who even thinks to ask for that? I opened a new browser window and did something I'd never done in 15 years of marriage. I started investigating my wife, social media accounts, credit card statements, phone records, all things I had access to as her husband, all things I'd never bothered to check because I trusted her. The credit card statements were interesting. Charges at restaurants I'd never been to, on days when she'd claimed to be shopping or visiting her mother. A hotel charge from last month, the Marriott downtown, the same day she'd said she was helping her sister move. Her sister lived 3 states away and had moved 2 years ago. I dug deeper. Phone records showed frequent calls to a number I didn't recognize. The calls started 3 months ago and had increased in frequency and duration. Recent calls lasted over an hour. A reverse phone lookup gave me a name, David Chen. I knew that name, David Chen, Beth's boyfriend from college. The one she'd dated before me, the one she'd claimed was ancient history when we'd run into him at a restaurant last year. He'd moved back to town 6 months ago for a job at the hospital, orthopedic surgery. Beth had mentioned it casually, the way you mentioned the weather. Small world, she'd said. David's back in town. Small world indeed. I spent the next hour learning everything I could about Dr. David Chen. Divorced, no kids, bought a house in Riverside, the expensive part of town where doctors and lawyers lived. According to social media, he'd been asking friends for restaurant recommendations and complaining about being lonely in a new city. Not lonely anymore, apparently. By midnight, I had a clear picture of what was happening. Beth wasn't asking permission to sleep with her ex for closure. She was asking permission to continue sleeping with her ex without feeling guilty about it. The honest approach to an ongoing affair. I had to admire the strategy. Get the husband's blessing, and you're not really cheating anymore. You're just exploring. With permission. My phone buzzed. Text from Beth. Staying at Lisa's tonight. Too much wine to drive. Love you. Lisa, who was in Florida. Right? I walked through our house looking at 15 years of shared life. Wedding photos, vacation pictures, report cards stuck to the refrigerator with magnets. The girls' artwork covering one wall of the hallway. A life built together, piece by piece, wire by wire. In our bedroom, Beth's side of the closet was missing several items. Her good luggage was gone. The jewelry box I'd bought her for our 10th anniversary sat open and half empty. She wasn't planning to come back tonight. Maybe not tomorrow night either. I sat on the edge of our bed, staring at my reflection in the mirror across the room. 49 years old, graying at the temples, crow's feet from squinting at electrical diagrams. Still in decent shape from physical work, but not exactly competition for a successful surgeon. My phone rang. John. Nick, you awake? Yeah. What's up? I'm at Murphy's Tavern. You should come down here. Murphy's was the local hangout for contractors, electricians, and other blue-collar professionals. I hadn't been there in months. It's midnight, John. Just come down. Trust me. The tone in his voice made me grab my keys. Murphy's Tavern occupied a converted gas station on the edge of downtown, all exposed brick and neon beer signs. The parking lot was half full despite the late hour. I found John at the bar, nursing a whiskey and staring at the baseball game on TV. Thanks for coming, he said as I sat down beside him. What's going on? The bartender, a guy named Pete who'd graduated high school with us, brought me a beer without being asked. Heard about your situation, Nick. Sorry, man. I looked at John. What situation? Word gets around, John said quietly. Small town, you know? People talk. About what, exactly? Pete polished a glass with unnecessary attention to detail. Your wife and the doctor. They've been seen around town. Murphy's, the Riverside Country Club, that new Italian place on 5th Street. The Italian place where Beth claimed to have had lunch with her mother last week. Her mother, who'd been dead for 5 years. How long has this been common knowledge? I asked. Month or so, John said. I wanted to tell you, but what? But I hoped it would blow over. Sometimes these things just fade away. I drank my beer and processed this information. My wife was having an affair, the whole town knew about it, and my brother had decided to protect me from the truth. The same brother who'd been making mysterious equipment purchases and signing contracts without my approval. Now, John, I said carefully, we need to talk about the business. His face went pale. What about it? The residential division expenses. Some of the numbers don't add up. Everything's fine, Nick. Just normal growth expenses. $15,000 for a wire pulling system we don't need. We're expanding. More jobs, more equipment required. Pete had moved to the other end of the bar, but I could tell he was listening. In a place like Murphy's, conversations became public property within hours. Show me the contracts tomorrow, I said. All of them. Of course. No problem. But John's hands were shaking as he reached for his drink, and I realized my brother was lying to me too. I left Murphy's at 1 a.m. with a clear understanding of my situation. My wife was cheating, my brother was stealing, and I was apparently the last person in town to figure it out. The smart-ass kid who'd built a successful business by paying attention to details had missed the biggest details of his own life. At home, I sat in my office and made a list. Not a to-do list, a revenge list. If Beth wanted to sleep with her ex, she could do it as a divorced woman. If John wanted to steal from the business, he could explain it to a judge. If the whole town wanted to gossip about Nick Parrish getting screwed over, they were about to get a much more interesting story. I opened my laptop and started typing. By dawn, I had a plan. I woke up at 6:30 to the sound of Beth's car in the driveway. Through our bedroom window, I watched her park and sit for a moment, checking her appearance in the rearview mirror. She looked satisfied, the expression of a woman who'd had a very good night. I pretended to be asleep when she slipped into bed beside me. She smelled like expensive cologne and hotel soap. David Chen's cologne and the Marriott's soap, most likely. Good morning, she whispered, kissing my cheek. Morning. How was girls' night? Wonderful. Lisa sends her love. Lisa, who was in Florida. Beth was doubling down on the lie, which told me everything I needed to know about her respect for my intelligence. I got up, showered, and made breakfast for the girls. Normal morning routine, except nothing was normal anymore. Bea and Bree ate cereal and toast, while Beth moved around the kitchen in her robe, humming softly. She seemed happier than she'd been in months. I have to run some errands today, she announced. Banking, grocery shopping, that sort of thing. Banking. Interesting choice of words. After the girls left for school, I kissed Beth goodbye and walked to the parish electric offices. Mary was already at her desk, sorting through the morning mail. John's not in yet, she said without looking up. Called in sick? Sick, or hungover, or avoiding the conversation about those contracts. Mary, I need you to pull all the financial records for the residential division. Everything from the past 6 months. She stopped sorting mail. Everything. Bank statements, invoices, contracts, equipment purchases. All of it. Should I ask why? Better if you don't. Mary had worked for Parish Electric since we'd had 3 employees and operated out of a rented garage. She understood the difference between curiosity and need to know. I spent the morning in my office, reviewing commercial contracts and trying to focus on normal business operations. At 10:30, my phone rang. Beth. Honey, I'm at the bank. There seems to be a problem with our joint account. What kind of problem? It's empty. I leaned back in my chair. That's odd. The teller says you withdrew everything yesterday evening. $53,000. Did I? Nick, this isn't funny. Where's our money? Safe, I said. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. That's our savings, our emergency fund, the girls' college money. The girls' college money is in a separate education account. This was just our joint savings, and it's safe. Where? I'll explain later. I have to go. I'm meeting with a client. I hung up before she could respond. Through my office window, I could see her car pulling into our driveway. She was home early from her errands. My phone rang again immediately. I didn't answer. Mary knocked on my door. Nick, your wife's here. She seems upset. Send her in. Beth stormed into my office like a tornado in designer jeans. Her face was flushed, her carefully styled hair slightly messed from running her hands through it. What the hell is going on? She demanded. Language, Beth. Mary can hear you. I don't care what Mary can hear. I want to know where our money is. I gestured to the chair across from my desk. Sit down. Let's discuss this calmly. I don't want to sit down. I want answers. The money is in a new account, in my name only. You can't do that. It's joint property. Actually, I can. The account was opened with my earnings from Parish Electric. Legally, I have every right to move my own money. Beth sat down hard in the chair. This is about last night, isn't it? You're punishing me for being honest with you. Honest. That was rich. This isn't punishment, Beth. This is protection. Protection from what? I opened my laptop and turned it toward her. On the screen were her credit card statements, highlighted to show the charges at restaurants, hotels, and other locations she'd visited while lying to me about her whereabouts. Her face went white. $53,000 is a lot of money, I said conversationally. It would be a shame if someone with expensive tastes gained access to it during a messy divorce. Divorce? Her voice cracked. Nick, we're not getting divorced. I asked for one night with David to get closure. That's all. One night? I clicked to another screen. According to your phone records, you've been calling Dr. Chen for 3 months. Some of those calls lasted over an hour. That's either the world's longest booty call, or you two have been planning this for a while. Beth stared at the screen, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. The hotel charges are particularly interesting, I continued. 11 different occasions over the past 2 months. Always on days when you told me you were somewhere else. You've been spying on me. I've been paying attention. There's a difference. She stood up abruptly. This is insane. You're acting like some kind of paranoid stalker. I'm acting like a husband who just discovered his wife has been cheating on him for months and lying about it. I never lied. You told me you were having dinner with Lisa last night. Lisa is in Florida. You charged dinner at Romano's to our joint credit card, the same credit card you used to pay for a hotel room afterward. Beth's face crumpled. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. And almost. It just happened, Nick. I didn't plan for this. Bullshit. You planned every detail. The lies, the cover stories, even asking my permission to sleep with him. That was brilliant, by the way. Get the husband's blessing, and you're not really cheating anymore. It's not like that. Then what is it like? She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, smearing her mascara. David makes me feel alive, like I'm interesting again, like I matter. And I don't make you feel that way. You make me feel safe, comfortable, but that's not the same thing. Safe and comfortable. 15 years of marriage, 2 children, a successful business, and I made her feel safe and comfortable. Not alive, not interesting. So you decided to fix that by screwing your ex-boyfriend. Don't be crude. I'm being accurate. Mary's voice came through the intercom. Nick, John's here. He wants to see you. Perfect timing. Send him in. John walked into my office and immediately sensed the tension. Beth was crying quietly in her chair. I was staring at my laptop screen, and the air felt thick enough to cut with wire strippers. Am I interrupting something? He asked. Family meeting, I said. Have a seat, brother. We need to discuss those residential contracts. John glanced at Beth, then back at me. Maybe we should do this later. Now's perfect. Beth was just leaving. She stood up unsteadily. This isn't over, Nick. Yes, it is. After she left, John sat in the same chair and tried to look casual. What's going on with you two? Beth's been having an affair, but you probably already knew that. John's face went through several expressions before settling on concerned sympathy. I heard rumors, but I didn't want to believe them. Right. Like you didn't want to believe I'd noticed $15,000 in unauthorized equipment purchases? Now John looked genuinely scared. Nick, I can explain. I'm sure you can. But first, let me show you something. I turned my laptop toward him. This time, the screen showed bank records for the residential division accounts. John's signature on withdrawal slips, equipment purchases that had been returned for cash, payments to contractors who didn't exist. $28,000, I said. That's how much you've stolen from Parish Electric over the past 6 months. John's face went gray. It's not stealing. It's my company, too. It's a loan. I was going to pay it back. With what money? The Maple Street contracts will more than cover it. The contracts you haven't started yet? The ones that depend on deposits from clients who might not exist? John's silence was answer enough. I closed the laptop. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to return every penny you've stolen, with interest. You're going to explain to our accountant exactly what you did and why. And you're going to sign over your shares of Parish Electric to me? Nick, come on. We're brothers. Brothers don't steal from each other. I was desperate. Sarah's been pushing for a bigger house, private school for the kids, a new car. The pressure was killing me. Sarah, John's wife, who worked part-time at a boutique and spent full-time at the country club. I'd never liked her, but I'd kept my mouth shut for family harmony. So you decided to steal from the business instead of telling your wife no. You don't understand what it's like. Sarah grew up with money. She expects a certain lifestyle. Then maybe you married the wrong woman. John flinched. That's easy for you to say. Beth's never demanded anything. Beth's been screwing her ex-boyfriend for 3 months. The words hung in the air like smoke. John stared at me, processing this information. Jesus, Nick, I'm sorry. Are you? Or are you sorry you got caught stealing? Both. I never meant for any of this to happen. I stood up and walked to the window. Outside, I could see Beth's car parked in our driveway. She was probably inside, calling David Chen or her lawyer or both. The Maple Street contracts, I said without turning around. Are they real? Yes, absolutely. I've got signed agreements, deposits, everything. Show me. John left and returned 5 minutes later with a folder full of paperwork. I reviewed each contract carefully. 6 houses, full electrical installation, smart home integration. Total value, $400,000 over 6 months. The contracts looked legitimate. The clients were real people with real addresses and real money. John might be a thief, but he was also a good salesman. This doesn't change anything, I said, handing back the folder. You still stole from the company. I know, and I'll make it right. How? I'll sell my house. Downsize. Sarah won't like it, but... John, your house is worth maybe $200,000. You owe the company $28,000 plus interest, plus the cost of an audit, plus damages for breach of trust. And that's assuming you can sell quickly in this market. Then what do you want me to do? I turned to face him. I want you to disappear. What? Take the Maple Street contracts and start your own company. Go Parish Electrical, or whatever you want to call it. Complete the jobs, keep the money, pay me back over time. John looked confused. You're firing me. I'm setting you free. You obviously can't work with me anymore. This way, you get to be your own boss, keep your house, and maintain your lifestyle. All you have to do is pay back what you stole and never speak to me again. Nick, we're brothers. Family. Family doesn't steal. Family doesn't lie. Family doesn't let you find out your wife is cheating from strangers in a bar. John's face crumpled. I wanted to tell you about Beth. I just didn't know how. When did you find out? A month ago, maybe 6 weeks. I saw them together at the Riverside Country Club. And you said nothing. I thought it would blow over. These things usually do. These things? John looked away. Beth's had friendships before. Nothing serious. They always ended. The room started spinning. What do you mean, friendships? I probably shouldn't have said anything. John, what friendships? He sighed. Remember when she joined that book club 3 years ago? And the yoga classes? And the volunteer work at the hospital? Each activity had lasted a few months before Beth lost interest and moved on to something else. I'd thought she was just restless, looking for hobbies to fill her time while the girls were at school. How many? I asked. I don't know. I minded my own business. How many, John? 4, maybe 5, over the years. 5 affairs. My wife had been cheating on me for years, my brother had known about it, and I'd been completely oblivious. The smart-ass kid who could diagnose electrical problems by listening to the hum of a circuit had missed every warning sign in his own marriage. I sat down heavily in my chair. Get out. Nick, get out of my office. Get out of my business. Get your stuff and go. What about the residential division? The employees, the contracts? Take them with you. Start fresh. Just go. After John left, I sat alone in my office, staring at the wall. Through the window, I could see our house, where Beth was probably packing her things or calling her lawyer or planning her next move. Mary knocked on the door. Nick? Everything okay? No, but it will be. Anything I can do? Yes. Call our lawyer. Tell him I need to see him today. And call our accountant. We're going to need a full audit of the residential division. Should I ask what's going on? Beth's been cheating. John's been stealing. I'm getting divorced and dissolving the partnership. Mary nodded like I just told her the weather forecast. I'll make those calls. And Nick, I'm sorry. For what it's worth, I always thought you deserved better. Thanks, Mary. She started to leave, then turned back. The girls don't know any of this yet, do they? Not yet. They're good kids. They'll be okay. After Mary left, I called the girls' schools and arranged to pick them up early. Whatever was about to happen, I wanted them to hear it from me first. Bea and Bree were waiting in the school office when I arrived, looking confused and slightly worried. Early pickup usually meant doctor appointments or family emergencies. Is everything okay, Dad? Bree asked as we walked to the truck. We need to have a family meeting. Your mom and I have some things to discuss with you. Are you getting divorced? Bea asked bluntly. I stopped walking. What makes you ask that? You've both been acting weird. Mom's been sleeping in the guest room. You've been working late every night, and this morning she was crying on the phone. Perceptive kids. Too perceptive. Let's go home and talk about it. At home, Beth's car was gone. I found a note on the kitchen counter. Gone to think. Back later. Don't do anything stupid. Too late for that advice. I made hot chocolate for the girls and sat them down at the kitchen table. How do you tell your daughters that their mother is a cheater and their uncle is a thief? How do you explain that the stable family life they'd always known was built on lies? Your mom and I are having some problems, I began. We know, Bea said. Are you getting divorced? Probably. Bree started crying immediately. Bea just nodded, like she'd been expecting this news. Is it because of the doctor? Bea asked. I stared at her. What doctor? The one Mom's been seeing. She said he was helping her with her back problems, but she doesn't have back problems. How do you know about him? I heard her talking to Aunt Sarah about him. She said he made her feel young again. Aunt Sarah, John's wife. So she'd known too. The whole family had known except me. What else did you hear? That she was confused about what she wanted. That she loved you but wasn't sure she was still in love with you. 15-year-old girls shouldn't have to process their parents' marital problems, but Bea was handling it like an adult. Bree was still crying, but she was listening. I want you both to know that none of this is your fault, I said. Sometimes adults make bad choices, and those choices have consequences. Your mom and I both love you more than anything in the world. That will never change. Where will we live? Bree asked through her tears. Here. This is your home. What about Mom? I don't know yet. We'll figure it out. We talked for another hour, covering the practical details of divorce, custody, and what their daily lives might look like. Both girls asked intelligent questions and seemed to understand that their parents' marriage was ending through no fault of their own. At 6 o'clock, Beth returned. She walked into the kitchen and found the three of us sitting at the table, empty hot chocolate mugs scattered around us. Family meeting? She asked. We told them, I said. Beth's face went white. Told them what? That we're getting divorced. That you've been seeing someone else. That their lives are about to change dramatically. Nick, we should have discussed this first. Like you discussed sleeping with David Chen? Bea and Bree looked back and forth between us like they were watching a tennis match. This wasn't how I'd wanted to handle it, but Beth had forced the issue by disappearing for the day. Girls, go to your rooms, Beth said. Your father and I need to talk. No, I said. They're old enough to hear this. They're going to be affected by every decision we make from now on. They deserve to know the truth. The truth? Beth's voice rose. You want to tell them the truth? Fine. The truth is that your father has become obsessed with controlling every aspect of our lives. He's been spying on me, stealing our money, and trying to turn you against me. I haven't stolen anything. I moved my own money to protect it. Our money. From our joint account. Money I earned while you were screwing your boyfriend. B stood up abruptly. Stop it. Both of you. This is exactly why kids hate divorce. You're both acting like children. She was right. I was letting my anger turn me into someone I didn't want to be. You're right, I said. I'm sorry. Beth sat down at the table. Me too. This isn't how I wanted any of this to happen. How did you want it to happen? Bree asked. Did you think Dad wouldn't find out? Beth looked at her younger daughter with surprise. Bree was usually the quiet one, the peacemaker, but she was staring at her mother with something close to disappointment. I hoped I could figure out what I wanted before anyone got hurt. Too late, Bee said. We're all hurt. The kitchen fell silent. Outside, I could hear the sound of traffic on the highway, the distant hum of electrical transformers, the ordinary sounds of a world that kept spinning despite our personal drama. What happens now? Beth asked. Now you pack your things and move in with Dr. Chen. I file for divorce. We split custody of the girls and try to minimize the damage. I don't want to move in with David. This isn't about him. Then what is it about? Beth looked around the kitchen at the life we'd built together. It's about me feeling like I disappeared somewhere along the way, like I became just Nick's wife and the girl's mother, but I stopped being Beth. So you decided to find yourself by cheating. I decided to find myself by exploring what else might be possible. With multiple men, according to John. Beth's face went red. John doesn't know what he's talking about. So there weren't others? The book club guy, the yoga instructor, the hospital volunteer coordinator. The silence stretched long enough to answer my question. I think I should pack some things, Beth said finally. She left the kitchen, and I heard her footsteps on the stairs. The girls and I sat in silence, processing the wreckage of our family. Dad? Bree said quietly. Yeah? Are we going to be okay? I looked at my daughters, 15 and 13, old enough to understand betrayal, but young enough to still believe in happy endings. They were the best thing Beth and I had ever created together, and they deserved better than this mess. We're going to be fine, I said. Different, but fine. And for the first time in 24 hours, I actually believed it. Beth left that night with 2 suitcases and a promise to call the girls every day. She didn't say where she was going, but her car headed toward Riverside, toward David Chen's expensive neighborhood. I spent the evening helping Bee and Bree process their emotions and adjust to the new reality. We ordered pizza, watched a movie, and pretended everything was normal. Kids are resilient, but they're not stupid. Both girls knew their lives had just been turned upside down. The next morning, I dropped them off at school and drove to my lawyer's office. Tom Bradley had handled Parish Electric's legal needs for 10 years, but this was the first time I'd needed his services for personal matters. Divorce is ugly, he said, after I'd explained the situation, especially when there's money involved and kids to consider. I want full custody. Based on what grounds? Adultery, abandonment. Beth left the family home to move in with her boyfriend. Can you prove the adultery? I handed him a folder containing credit card statements, phone records, and hotel receipts. Multiple affairs over several years. The current one is just the latest. Tom reviewed the documents carefully. This is good evidence, but Indiana is a no-fault divorce state. Adultery doesn't automatically give you custody. What does? Best interests of the children. Stability, financial security, emotional environment. You've got advantages there. You're keeping the family home, you have a stable business, and the girls are old enough to express their preferences. What about the business? John's been stealing from the company accounts. That's a separate legal matter. Criminal, potentially, but it could affect the divorce if Beth was aware of it or benefited from it. She wasn't involved. John was trying to keep up with his wife's spending. Still, it shows financial instability in the family business. Beth's lawyer might use that to argue for higher alimony. I left Tom's office with a clear understanding of what I was facing. Divorce proceedings that could take months, custody battles that would traumatize my daughters, and financial audits that would expose every detail of my business and personal life to public scrutiny. But I also left with something else. A plan. At Parish Electric, Mary had compiled all the financial records I'd requested. The residential division's books were a mess. John had been sloppy about covering his tracks, probably because he'd never expected to get caught. How bad is it? Mary asked. Bad enough. John's been skimming money for months, maybe longer. Are you pressing charges? I don't know yet. He's still my brother. He's also a thief. Mary had never liked John. She'd always thought he was charming but unreliable, the kind of person who promised more than he could deliver. Apparently she'd been right. My phone rang. Beth, we need to talk, she said. About what? About how we're going to handle this. The girls, the house, the business. We can't just let lawyers fight it out. Why not? Because it'll destroy everyone, including Bea and Bree. They don't deserve to be caught in the middle of a war. She was right, but I wasn't feeling particularly generous. You should have thought about that before you started cheating. I know I screwed up, Nick, but we can still handle this like adults. Fine. Meet me for lunch. Neutral territory. We agreed to meet at a diner downtown, the kind of place where blue-collar workers grabbed coffee and complained about their bosses. Not exactly romantic, but that wasn't the point. Beth was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth and looking nervous. She'd dressed carefully, not too formal, not too casual, like she was trying to send a message about being reasonable and approachable. "Thank you for coming," she said as I sat down. "What do you want, Beth?" "I want us to work out a fair agreement without destroying each other." The waitress brought coffee without being asked. Small-town diners were like that. They knew their customers and anticipated their needs. "Define fair," I said. "Joint custody of the girls." "I keep the house." "No. Nick, be reasonable. The girls need stability. That house is their home. That house is my home, too. I built Parish Electric on that property. I'm not giving it up so you can play house with your boyfriend." "I'm not moving in with David." "I told you that." "Then where are you living?" "I rented a small apartment downtown. Temporary, until we figure things out." "We've figured it out. You cheated, I'm divorcing you, and you're moving on with your life. The girls stay with me." Beth's eyes filled with tears. "You can't take my children away from me." "I'm not taking them away. You gave them away when you decided screwing other men was more important than being a mother." "That's not fair." "Fair?" I leaned forward. "You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been telling me you were unhappy instead of sneaking around behind my back. Fair would have been asking for marriage counseling instead of asking permission to cheat. Fair would have been thinking about your daughters before you started your midlife crisis tour of every available man in town." The diner had gone quiet around us. Other customers were pretending not to listen, but small-town gossip networks were efficient. By tonight, everyone would know that Nick Parrish was divorcing his cheating wife. "I never meant for it to go this far," Beth said quietly. "How far did you mean for it to go?" "I don't know. I was confused, lonely. You work all the time, the girls are growing up, and I felt like I was disappearing." "So you decided to reappear in other men's beds?" "Don't be crude. I'm being accurate. Again." Beth wiped her eyes with a napkin. "What do you want from me, Nick? You want me to grovel? To beg forgiveness? To promise it'll never happen again?" "I want you to sign divorce papers and agree to reasonable custody arrangements. The girls live with me during the school year, spend summers and holidays with you. You get visitation rights, not joint custody." "And financially?" "You get half of our joint assets, minus what I've already moved to protect Parish Electric. No alimony. You're young, healthy, and capable of working." "I haven't worked in 15 years. "Then it's time to start." Beth stared into her coffee cup. "You're being vindictive." "I'm being practical." "You want to start a new life? Start it. But you don't get to keep all the benefits of the old life while exploring new options." "What about the girls? They need their mother. They need a mother who puts them first. Are you that person?" The question hung in the air between us. Beth opened her mouth to answer, then closed it again. "I don't know," she said finally. It was the first honest thing she'd said in months. We finished our coffee in silence. Outside, the lunch crowd was returning to work. Electricians, mechanics, construction workers heading back to job sites. People who built things, fixed things, made things work. People like me before my life fell apart. "I'll have Tom draw up the papers," I said as we prepared to leave. "Nick, wait. There's something else." "What?" "John came to see me this morning. He's scared about the business situation." "He should be. He wants to make things right. Then he can pay back what he stole and disappear." "He can't pay it back. Not all at once. Sarah's already talking about leaving him if they have to sell the house." "That's not my problem." "He's your brother. He's a thief." Beth reached across the table and touched my hand. "You used to be more forgiving." I pulled my hand away. "I used to be more trusting." Look where that got me. That afternoon, I picked up the girls from school and drove them to Parish Electric. They'd been coming to the office since they were small, helping with filing and learning about the business. Today, I wanted them to see what their father had built. "Are we going to lose the company?" Bea asked as we walked through the warehouse. "No. Why would you think that?" Uncle John said there might be financial problems. When did you talk to Uncle John? He called this morning. He sounded upset. I made a mental note to have a conversation with John about contacting my daughters. The company is fine. There are some issues with the residential division, but the commercial side is solid. What kind of issues? Bree asked. I looked at my 13-year-old daughter, who was asking the same questions a bank auditor would ask. Uncle John made some poor financial decisions. We're working it out. Is that why you and Mom are getting divorced? Because of money problems? No, sweetheart. Your mom and I are getting divorced because we want different things from life. What does Mom want? How do you explain to your daughter that her mother wants to sleep with other men? That she's been doing it for years? That the stable family life they'd always known was a carefully constructed lie? Your mom wants to explore new relationships. She's not happy being married anymore. Bea nodded, like this made perfect sense. Like Jessica's mom. She got divorced and moved to California with her yoga instructor. Apparently, I wasn't the only father in town dealing with a midlife crisis wife. We spent an hour at the office, reviewing contracts and discussing the future of Parish Electric. Both girls were smart enough to understand the basics of the business and old enough to appreciate the work that had gone into building it. Will we have to move? Bree asked as we drove home. No, the house is ours. What about Mom? She'll find her own place? With the doctor? I don't know. That's her choice. At home, I made dinner while the girls did homework. Normal family routine, except we were missing a family member. The kitchen felt different without Beth's presence, quieter, but also more peaceful. My phone rang during dinner. John. Nick, we need to talk. I'm having dinner with my daughters. It's important. So is family time. Sarah's threatening to leave me. She found out about the money. That's between you and Sarah. She's talking to a lawyer. She thinks you're going to have me arrested. I looked at Bea and Bree, who were pretending not to listen while clearly hanging on every word. We'll discuss it tomorrow. Nick, please, I'm begging you, don't destroy my family. You destroyed your own family when you decided to steal from me. I hung up and turned off my phone. Is Uncle John in trouble? Bree asked. Yes. Big trouble? Yes. Are you going to help him? I looked at my daughters, who still believed that family members helped each other through difficult times. They didn't understand that sometimes family members were the source of the difficult times. I don't know yet, I said. That night, after the girls were in bed, I sat in my office and made a decision. John had stolen from the company, Beth had cheated on our marriage, and both of them had lied to me for months. But destroying them wouldn't undo the damage they'd caused. It would, however, send a message to anyone else who might be thinking about betraying me. I opened my laptop and began typing an email to Tom Bradley. It was time to stop being the nice guy who got taken advantage of. It was time to be the smart guy who fought back. The email was simple. File all papers immediately. No mercy, no compromise, no second chances. Let's show this town what happens when you mess with Nick Parrish. I hit send and went to bed. Tomorrow, the real war would begin.